Welcome back. We are speaking to Minister Rohitha Bogollagama, Minister of Foreign Affairs. So with Minister we discussed a lot of issues with respect to mainly the development wave that is being launched, and he touched upon many important service sectors. That is, he also spoke about the increase of the per capita income from $1,000 to more than $2,200. He was talking about how this $2,200 per capita will be raised to more than $4,000, and he mentioned a gamut of sectors and referred to the increase in the sea area we have got due to the eradicated in terrorism. And then we also moved on to speaking about the agricultural sector, the development of the 5 ports and the harbors, and then the road system, and also he was talking about the Norechore power plant, Upper Kotmale power plant, and many power plants that are coming into the power sector, and how the electricity consumption has increased from 73% to 87%, and also how this sort of unprecedented wave will sort of have a very big impact on the economy of the country. And he was also referring to tourism. And in that context, Minister, when we are talking about tourism, what are the efforts to sort of brand Sri Lanka and to rebuild Sri Lanka's image after the war and go into the international community?
2 things we had to do in terms of building Sri Lanka's image. We had to maintain a very stable, very acceptable environment in Sri Lanka on all fronts. We must have a country's stability. The country must be free of violence, which has already been achieved, and our record, our profile, that a country's good governance programs are in place. And that's what President Rajapaksa has done by bringing the type of change that was needed for Sri Lanka from a terrorist-struck nation to that of a free nation, to a country where there was democracy being denied to a section of the people of this country because of the presence of or the scourge of terrorism. Today a democratic nation, a rule of law right across the country, where there were kangaroo courts at one time run by the tigers, and no longer it is in existence. Today there rule of law. The Supreme Court has the jurisdiction all over Sri Lanka. All the magistrate courts by our judiciary is functioning in all over Sri Lanka, and those are key areas for the country profile to be taken across. And with that, the arrivals have already started getting increased because people see the country is free, country can be accessed, and people are moving about. And a lot of travel advisories that were issued by the foreign countries have got relaxed, except for the very north. The rest of the country has been declared as free, and a lot of high commissioners have come on public domain and maintained that their own families have started visiting Sri Lanka.
New York Times also reported that Sri Lanka is one of the best destinations out of the 31 countries, right, for travel.
That's absolutely true. That Sri Lanka has become a sought after destination. In fact, a lot of people find it difficult to get a seat at a convenient time in most of the airlines that are touching down in Sri Lanka. And there's an increased number of airlines wanting to visit Sri Lanka now because they see the market potential getting increased further and further. And thereby, for tourism, if you go into a hotel, you see that it's hardly possible to get a reservation at short notice. We need more hotel rooms to be built in this country, more hotels to be created, both city and resorts. And I think that's what is now happening, because the private sector initiative is getting further encouraged by the President's policies. And President too wants to see that tourism becomes a major key element of Sri Lanka's economy, and that's what he has already declared. By 2015, we'll have a record number of tourists coming, like 2.5 million tourists visiting Sri Lanka from our level of about 600,000, 700,000 currently. So we are trying to look at a 3-fold increase in tourism arrival within the next 6 years.
And also, what about the foreign direct investment? And because we know that the economic crisis in the world, now because there was an economic crisis in the world, has the foreign direct investment has significantly, has it decreased? What is the situation with respect to that? And what are the steps taken by your ministry to encourage FDIs?
In fact, at the time President Rajapaksa came into office in 2005 November, from 1st of January 2006 to 2007 January, I held the portfolio of investments. I was responsible for investments and enterprise development. From 285 million US dollars under President Rajapaksa, the first year itself, we registered 604 million US dollars. Now that was 3 times what was there against what we achieved. Now secondly, in 2008-2009 it kept on increasing. Target being about $1 billion US dollars per year in terms of foreign direct investments. Now what is important here is that these investments are coming directly to the country, to the private sector, in addition to the state sector investment that have come through China, from India, from various countries for projects in Sri Lanka. That again has come from, if you take Hambantota project, Norochole, Kerawala Pitya, these are again foreign projects that are coming to the country, that is foreign funded projects. You can look at it as investments, but this what I mentioned was the FDI, which is coming from the private sector, private initiatives, and thereby we have a combination of these two forces working and registering a higher foreign investments in Sri Lanka. Now that is continuing in terms of a, I would say, a reasonable growth, but it will get further accelerated in 2010, because this is the first year we are seeing Sri Lanka as a year of freedom, as a year of peace and tranquility and stability, and thereby in spite of all the shocks that we experienced in the past, this year is a kind of a shock-free year, I would say, and for the first time democracy has taken its course from the north to the south, and that itself will encourage people to take more investments into Sri Lanka. And our own investors who are here will keep on expanding. That also will be another element towards increasing our investment drive. And a lot of countries get first investment, then the ones who are already here keep on building their own investments further and further. And we have seen that happening even in the real estate sector. The mega buildings that have come up, the skyline change in Colombo is largely due to the expansion that is taking place from the same investor. You had the World Trade Center built by Shinkon Group of Singapore, and they have started the Havelock City development in 2006, and today it has been completed. Likewise, you have the Crescat development going to a lot of other developments there, etc. So these are important milestones in a country's development agenda. You have a record, and that record being maintained well will stimulate further economic activity in the country.
And also, as a Minister of Foreign Affairs, economic diplomacy is crucial, isn't it, Minister? So in that case, are we exploring new markets, like, for example, Africa, Brazil, they are upcoming economic centers. What sort of relationship does Sri Lanka have with that kind of markets?
We have been always planning for the future from the Minister of Foreign Affairs. That's why we went and started connecting up with Brazil, because Brazil is also looking south-south. Dialogue is getting increased with Brazil under President Lula Silva, and our president met with the President of Brazil. Our president has also met with several leaders